So today we are going to talk about Macbeth and the three Macbeths. If our viewers need an introduction of Rashri and Pankaj, well, the detailed introduction will be given on our video. But still, of course, they are very good friends. And Rashri is a filmmaker, of course, and her student film Badger was nominated for the Oscars. Yes, and then she made an independent feature called Chorahe. It was a lovely, beautiful film, and it had Victor Banerjee and Zeenat Aman and Charlie Chaplin's granddaughter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, lovely, beautiful film. And then, of course, she made Aisha. We all know about Aisha. And one segment of X Past is Present, starring Radhika Apte. And currently, her web series is going to come out on a streaming platform. And she's also working on the next feature. So, welcome, Rashri. Welcome to Cinema Satsang.
Thank you.
Yes, and we have Pankaj with us. Of course, he's a Cinema Satsang homeboy. He's a fine actor, and he's originally from Bhopal. And as we all know, Bhopal is a place. There are a lot of stalwarts in theatre from Bhopal, and it is very famous for theatre. So he's trained there, and then he has a MA from Bombay University. And of course, he's also a faculty Cinema Satsang Film School online. So yes, I was watching Joji, and I shared with you that let's do something. So Joji is inspired from Macbeth, and Fahad Fazil is, I think, one of the finest actors we have in India today. And while looking at his performance, I thought, why not let's do something on the three Macbeths, which I have seen: Fahad Fazil in Joji, Irrfan Saab, of course, in Maqbool, and Toshiro Mifune in Akira Kurosawa's Throne of Blood, which I had seen on the big screen, I think on a film print. So I said, let's get together and with friends and talk about these three great performances. But since we are talking about Macbeth, so of course you all would like to talk about a little bit about the adaptation as well, I believe. So I'm here to listen today to both of you and add my two bits. So let's start. And of course, coincidentally, not by design, but by default, we are coinciding with Irfan Saab's death anniversary.
Oh.
And yes, and the newspapers were full of his quotes. And in fact, I would like to start with his quotation. So that's a very nice and lovely coincidence. So let's start with Maqbool, if you don't mind, and Irfan Saab's quotation, and then over to you all. So Irfan Saab की एक quotation है: I can't be judgmental while looking at a character. For the character to work for me, I have to find his emotional world. He's saying you can't be judgmental about a character. And even if I played Hitler, I would need to find out what he does, how he does it, and when he does what. So this is said by Irfan Saab. Now over to you all. Who would like to go first? Irfan Saab and Maqbool. Rashri, you want to start?
Pankaj. Let's start with Pankaj.
Okay. और हमने किया था लास्ट ईयर एक वीडियो इनफैक्ट इसी टाइम पे लंच बॉक्स के ऊपर उनके परफॉर्मेंस के ऊपर जी बोलिए.
हम लोगों ने लंच बॉक्स पे किया था और जैसे कि सबके ही वो एक जिस तरीके का काम वो छोड़ के गए हैं तो सबके एक पसंदीदा चहेते कलाकार सिर्फ एक्टर्स के नहीं बाकी सब लोगों के रहे हैं. और कल ऐसा हुआ कि ये सब जो पेंडेमिक चल रहा है वैसे एक माहौल एक अनहेल्दी एटमॉस्फेयर है, सब लोग थोड़ा डिप्रेसिंग माहौल है और उसके बीच भी सारी सोच से हटकर उनकी चीजें दिमाग में एक इतना सोसाइटी में प्रॉब्लम चल रहा है और एक इंडिविजुअल का ख्याल आता है और लगता है कि मतलब उनके लिए दुख होता है यहाँ कि वो बहुत जल्दी चले गए. तो उनके काम का ताकत था जिससे वो सब हुआ है. और मकबूल उनका एक बहुत शुरुआती काम था और एक ऐसा कैरेक्टर करना जहाँ का जिसको जो इनर भी जिसका इतना स्ट्रांग होगी, इनर जो चीजें हैं गिल्ट या रिग्रेट वगैरह उसको हाईलाइट करना. लेकिन मकबूल में ये था कि मकबूल में खाली शेक्सपियर की जो थीम्स थी वो नहीं ली गई थी बल्कि एक अलग वर्ल्ड बनाया गया था. जैसे थ्रोन ऑफ ब्लड में वो काफी हद तक मैकबेथ को सिनेमा पे दिखाया था जो लोगों ने पसंद भी किया था कि लिटरेचर के साथ छेड़छाड़ नहीं था. पर यहाँ एडेप्टेशन में क्रिमिनल वर्ल्ड दिखाना और उसको भी जस्टिफाई करना और शेक्सपियर की थीम्स को भी इंटैक्ट रखना, तो वो इरफान के अभिनय से बहुत आसान हुआ, क्योंकि उसमें नसीरुद्दीन शाह, ओमपुरी, पंकज कपूर, जिनको उस फिल्म के लिए काफी अवार्ड्स मिले थे, उन जैसे भारी भरकम और वेटरन एक्टर्स थे, और उनके बीच इरफान एक नए एक्टर का अपने आप को जज्ब भी करके रखना और सारे कैरेक्टर से रिलेशनशिप भी बना के रखना, बहुत मैं नहीं कह सकती कि और अभिनेताओं ने उतनी वहां तक मेरे लिए वो बात पहुंचा पाई है जहां तक इरफान साहब ने पहुंचा पाई है।
राजश्री?
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with Pankaj. Ki, Irfan was a really was a breakout star in this film in a way. I think if you have to call him a star, I mean, becoming a star, because everybody noticed him in mainstream cinema too, after Maqbool. I mean, he was doing, earlier, he had done Meera Nair, and he was doing small roles. He has done TV before that. He had done many, but he was not recognized. But actually, people turned and saw a new, a new actor who may come, in power with Nasiruddin Shah, Ompuri, that kind of an actor who's coming, a young actor. And I thought that was I think Pankaj said the right thing. Maqbool was that turning point for Irfan Khan in a way. And he proved to all the people that he was there. I think Irfan's performance was so nuanced in this film that you feel like you need to see the small things. I actually because of this session, I actually saw the films back to back, all the three. And I have to say that I'm so proud that Irfan was part of the industry, that this amazing, he's such an amazing actor, and we lost him too soon. But those nuances, when bahut acha scene, and just now Pankaj said Tabu is there. There's a scene when you first see him and Tabu notices him, and I thought that was such a, like, he looks at her and he looks away because he is not supposed to, because he's Abbaji's wife, right? So he's not supposed to, but she looks at him and gives him a slight smile, and he registers it. I think that's a fantastic way an actor can give you. He doesn't say much, and that's fantastic. When you don't say much and yet you have so much, you're bringing so much to the screen. I think that's, and I mean, I'm sure the director said, "Ye hai," but how an actor interprets it is what I think Irfan Khan is all about, and that's why we all the whole world, or at least India, everybody is missing him because of that. Because very few actors can kind of take those nuances and make them their character. Whether he's talking to, it's very interesting that there's a scene where he shares scenes with Nasiruddin Shah and Ompuri, and he kind of stands his ground, and they are both like, Mia, you are, don't worry, Mia, we are with you. In a way, he's like looking so, in the beginning, he's like cocky, and he's like, okay, I'm the cocky young guy. And I think that these little things, those little nuances of, of his performance, that you can never, I have a scene that I actually will talk about when he first time comes out, and there's a marriage thing happening. Is Pankaj Kapoor is dancing, and everybody's dancing. I don't know if you remember that scene. Everybody's dancing. It's the young daughter's wedding, and he is looking at Pankaj, and then he looks at Tabu's character, and the way he's looking, like he's thinking, and his internal thoughts, I can understand. So that is I think it's an amazing, it's very few actors who can do that, who can give me an insight to one's internal thoughts. I think, what do you say about that, Pankaj and Kabir?
No, one thing I'd like to say that you nailed it on the head. The silences of Irfan Khan speak volumes. He has less dialogue, little dialogues. I think a lot of people in the film have a lot of dialogues. नसरुद्दीन शाह, ओमपुरी, बट वो कम बातों में इतना कुछ कह दिया उन्होंने कि बहुत ही काबिल तारीफ.
हाँ, मुझे अभी बातचीत करते ही करते मुझे, जब मैं उनका कैरेक्टर एकदम दिमाग से जा रहा था और बाकी फिल्मों का भी, तो अगर मैकबेथ जो कैरेक्टर है वो यही अगर देखा जाए, क्योंकि जब वो नाटक लिखा गया था तो बहुत ज्यादा उसमें सुपर नेचुरल चीजें थी, और तो ये सब था कि नेचर के विपरीत अगर आप गए तो आपका जो भी डिस्ट्रक्शन होना है वो तय है। तो मुझे विचेस भी जो उन्होंने लिखी थी वो सबकॉन्शियस लगता है, कहीं ना कहीं माइंड लगता है। तो जो दूसरे एक्टर्स ने भी किया, पर इरफान ने इतने बेहतरीन तरीके से किया कि जैसे इन्होंने कहा कि उनके प्रेजेंस इतना स्ट्रांग है, कॉन्फिडेंस की कमी कैरेक्टर में दिखानी थी। ही इज अ वॉरियर, जब वो लड़ने जाता है, गोली मारने जाता है, जब वो कॉन्फिडेंट है, लेकिन जहाँ वो एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में आता है, औरत के बीच में आया, या फिर अब्बा जी के सामने, या किन लोगों के सामने भी सेकंड हाफ में आता है, नसीर और ओमपुरी जो अपने भली पुलिस के छोटे ओहदे पर खिलाड़ी लोग हैं, तो उनके सामने वो कॉन्फिडेंस की कमी मेंटेन रख के भी आपका कैरेक्टर इतना दमदार लगे, और उसके लिए आपकी इम्पेथाइज भी हो बीइंग अ नेगेटिव कैरेक्टर, तो बहुत बेहतरीन तरीके से किया उन्होंने। कॉन्फिडेंस कम करने के लिए अपने कैरेक्टर को एक डब्बू कैरेक्टर नहीं, बल्कि एक ऐसा क्रिमिनल है, जैसे बोलते हैं कि मैकबेथ में वो दोनों बहुत बड़ी लड़ाई जीत के आते हैं। पीयूष मिश्रा से बोलता है कि भाई, 2-3 बार बोलता है, भाई हमने कितने लोगों को साथ में उड़ाया है, गोली खाई है साथ में। तो एक वॉरियर, जो वॉरियर बोलेंगे, जो माफिया है फील्ड में, और उसका कॉन्फिडेंस की कमी को लेके चलना पूरे उसमें, वो मुझे एक बहुत बेहतरीन ट्रेट लगा। और दूसरा, अगर हम सीन्स का बात करें, तो तब्बू के पास जब ये जाता है, सब कुछ खत्म हो जाता है, तो वो जब उसको हॉस्पिटल से उठा के ले जाता है और वो अपना हाथ धोना चाहती है, दाग धोना चाहती है, तो तब्बू उसकी गोद में लेटती है, थोड़ी पागल वैसी हो जाती है, बाल्टी लेके आती है और कहती है, मियाँ मियाँ हमारा इश्क पाक नहीं था ना, मियाँ हमारा इश्क पाक। तो जब तब्बू परफॉर्म कर रही है, शी इज लाइक ऑन द टॉप। तो इरफान जैसे एक्टर, उन्होंने परफॉर्मेंस को कहीं पे भी, ये एक इनसिक्योरिटी बहुत एक्टर्स में होता है कि दूसरा एक्टर लाउड होने लगता है कि यार मेरी भी एक्टिंग दिखे, पर उन्होंने अपना चेहरा, पीछे आईना भी लगा हुआ था शॉट में, दोनों दिख रहे थे, उन्होंने अपना चेहरा डाउन रखा, उसको कंसोल करते रहे, और तब्बू को पूरा मौका दिया, क्योंकि वो तब्बू का आखिरी सीन था। तो ये भी एक एक्टर के अंदर होना चाहिए कि मुझे देखो ना हो, वो कॉन्फिडेंस ही होता है। शुरुआती फिल्म में एक्टर्स का बहुत मुश्किल होता है कि ये ट्रेट ना हो कि मुझे देखो मुझे देखो। तो दैट वाज वेरी ब्यूटीफुल।
Now that you mentioned that, that is one of my favorite scenes of the film, and that is a remarkable scene where Tabu has major most of the dialogues, and as you said, there is a mirror, so there is a reflection of them in the mirror, and he is just staring into space, and he's just reacting, and the camera holds on to him for very long, for it's a very long take, and the camera
Yeah.
holds on to his face, and she is talking, and that is a very long, that's wonderful direction also, maybe by Vishal Bharadwaj, because he has not cut that, and he has let just his face speak the silences, as Rajneesh said. So that is a brilliant scene, and we often talk about performances of Hollywood actors and European actors, like two great actors performing with each other, like in Marriage Story, Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson, or if you look at a Wim Wenders film like Paris, Texas. But over here, Tabu and Irfan Khan has matched any international standard, I would say. They,
No, I agree with you, and I think the film in itself is an excellent film, and it's as a good an adaptation than any other adaptation of Macbeth. And I only have to say that whether you are doing Macbeth is actually a fallen hero, a fallen hero, as we call them. He is gray. He's never white or black. He's never black fully, and he's never going to be white fully. So I think that catching that grayness in your performance, and then keeping, even in the end, when Macbeth falls, with any other, when you read Macbeth, you're like, okay, I understand where he's coming from. But when Irfan fell, I don't think for me, I was a little sad. I was like, oh, you know what?
Yeah, there was a lump in throat.
Yeah, there's a little lump, and maybe, yeah, it's just that, he was in he brought a very childlike innocence to his performance, which is, I think, very few, as I said again, very few actors do that, bring that little innocent in that, even in a character like that. And I think that's where he kind of stands out. Even whether you all had done Lunchbox, he does the same thing in Lunchbox. There's an innocence in that man. It's how he brings that little, like this naivety, the little, I want to know more. I want to know, I want to know life. I want to know you. I think that's what audience wants from an actor. When you kind of bring that to the audience falls for it. And I think that as an actor is a great achievement, and very few actors in the world can do that. And I think he was one of them.
Yes, and what you're saying rightly is that you feel compassionate maybe for the character,
Yeah.
and you feel and that's what in his quote he says, that I would like to know the inner world of the characters, and therefore he could bring compassion in the viewer for
Yeah,
characters.
because I
Jaisa
think
bhi ho.
if you don't bring that inner world, I think that's where a lot of us just, that's where a lot of actors fall. And I'm being very, we're all working in this industry, but I think a lot of actors just remain just on the surface because they don't bring that. They don't bring that inner struggle, the inner. It can be anything. It can be a top. It can be Superman, but even Superman has to have an inner journey. And if you can bring that, I think you've achieved a lot. Very, as I said, you can have a most bland of a character, but an actor can actually take that character and blend it in, and can get a lot of inner conflict. I mean, you give Irfan a character like a cop in Gunde or whatever that movie was. I think some one of the films
I
that
don't
was
know.
a film, and he sits there and he does it so well. You love to see him rather than see the heroes. I don't know if that's a compare. I'm not comparing them, but that's just saying that look at the scope of this actor, and not when you take a scope like that and you bring him into Macbeth, which is a very, very fine, one of the three most important plays of Shakespeare, which is done over and over and over again. There are three. Shakespeare does Macbeth, Hamlet, and Romeo and Juliet. And Macbeth is such an iconic character. Very few people will say, "Arey, ye to Macbeth hai kita." But you have taken Macbeth to thinking it's Maqbool. I think that's an achievement itself. I mean, when you think Macbeth, you think Maqbool. I think that's an achievement for the director and the actor. I think that's a fantastic. I think if you could do that, I think you've achieved a lot.
I think the writers also did a good job, isn't it?
Yeah,
In adapting.
अब्बास तायरवाला and Vishal Bharadwaj.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
writing. See, I go back to what Pankaj said. Ki, if you're going into adaptation, it's a very well at that time. जब ये picture बनी थी, when these films were making, a lot of gangster films were coming out. RGB was at its peak. Everybody was making gangster films, and gangster films are always a big thing in India. And it still is. So the whole and the milieu of the whole the world of Bombay and the underworld, and it's very common. I mean, Shakespeare is but the way they're written, and bringing in all the what was happening, I think it's a very nicely put together. Even Lady Macbeth was not a Lady Macbeth, but was his mistress, and how he was married to the king was Pankaj Kapoor, and how she was actually wanted the king to die because she wanted to be with her lover. So all that was very well, thought about, how the gangsters fought. Everything was very, very nicely tied. I think it was very well tied up in a screenplay level. Yes, it's a very well adapted, I think, because it went into the culture of our Bollywood films, if I mean, Indian cinema, in Hindi cinema, whatever you call Bollywood or whatever.
तो मेरा कुछ फेवरेट सीन्स के बारे में मैं आपको बताता हूँ, तीन क्विकली मैं बताता हूँ. एक तो वो गर्दन ऐसे ऐसे करते थे, मे बी पंकज कैन थ्रो सम हाईलाइट बिफोर मेकिंग लव, या कुछ ऐसा होता था. तो अगर आप लोगों ने नोटिस किया तो गर्दन का वो एक मूवमेंट करते थे. आई डोंट नो वो कैरेक्टर के लिए किया है क्या.
टू रिलैक्स हिज
वो शायद मुझे ऐसे लगता है कि शायद उनका पर्सनल हो सकता है, और उनको लगा कि कैरेक्टर में जाएगा तो उन्होंने उसका कंटिन्यूटी मेंटेन रखा. और क्योंकि जा भी रहा था, क्योंकि कैरेक्टर के साथ प्रॉब्लम्स, क्राइसिस इतने थे, वो जिस जगह पे था वो कभी भी कंफर्टेबल नहीं था पहली बार से, क्योंकि उसका अफेयर चल रहा था, वो भी अब्बा जी की मिस्ट्रेस से। उसके पहले बचपन में भी वो बोलता है ना कि मतलब इसके बाप भी वहीं पे काम करते थे, तो कभी भी वो मतलब आप आपके लिए कोई कितना भी एहसान करे, जब तक वो आपके खुद के पेरेंट्स ना हो, आप हमेशा एक एहसान तले दबे रहते हो। और उस एहसान तले आपको करना भी क्या पड़ रहा है, क्राइम। तो उनका वो हमेशा अपने आप को रिलैक्स करना, मतलब अंदर एक स्ट्रेस और स्ट्रेन है, तो वो जा रहा था कैरेक्टर के साथ। पर मुझे लगता है कि शुरुआत में उनको नेचुरली आया होगा और उन्होंने बाद में उसको डाला होगा।
और एक, जैसे कि मैंने आपको बताया, क्लाइमेक्स सीन मेरा फेवरेट था, बहुत ही ब्रिलियंट उनका साइलेंस कन्वे कर रहा था। और एक और मेरा फेवरेट सीन था जब वो चिल्लाते हैं। पूरे फिल्म में आवाज उन्होंने ऊंची नहीं की, he didn't raise his voice, but once he shouts when he says ये बच्चा मेरा है।
इसका बाप जिंदा है अभी।
हाँ, बच्चा रोता है क्योंकि इसके बाप को हमने मारा है, तो he says ये बच्चा मेरा है। that was, I felt that was also incredible.
और प्लॉट पे हम लोग जब प्लॉट की बात कर रहे थे, तो यही मतलब इसलिए ये फिल्म इतना खूबसूरत हो जाता है ना। मतलब शेक्सपियर के टाइम अगर उसमें प्लॉट में जो चेंज है इतने अच्छे से करना, और क्या था उस टाइम विच हंटिंग भी शायद चलता था और विचेस को बहुत दिखाया जाता था, तो मतलब और शेक्सपियर के खुद प्लेस को देख के ऐसा लगता है कि उनका थोड़ा औरतों के, मतलब ऐसा डायरेक्टली बोलना नहीं चाहिए, पर औरतों को थोड़ा नेगेटिव लाइट में दिखाना, इन्होंने उसको एक जस्टिफिकेशन देने का कैसे कोशिश किया है कि औरत खुद कितने क्राइसिस में थी। बाकी लेडी मैकबेथ का बैकग्राउंड स्टोरी मैकबेथ में नहीं है, लेकिन इसमें उन्होंने दिखाया कि उसको एक मिस्ट्रेस बन के आना पड़ा। वो कहती है कि जब उसके साथ सोती हूँ इतना नंगा बदन इतना भयंकर लगता है। तो एक उसका लॉजिक था कि क्यों वो औरत ऐसा करी है, बल्कि मैकबेथ में ऐसा कुछ लॉजिक नहीं रह, एक बैक स्टोरी नहीं रहता है। तो ये इस मैकबेथ की बहुत खासियत है कि अगर औरत उस पर्टिकुलर औरत को नेगेटिव शेड में दिखा रहे हैं, तो उस कैरेक्टर का लॉजिक है। ऐसा नहीं कि हाँ औरत ने दिमाग में भर दिया तो आदमी ने ऐसा कर दिया, जो बहुत पहले रिग्रेसिव सोच फिल्मों में भी दिखाई जाती थी और नाटकों में भी होती थी एक हद तक। तो ये मुझे मैकबेथ का बहुत अच्छा पॉइंट लगा। और विचेस को सिस्टम बना देना, पुलिस बना देना, दैट वाज सो ब्यूटीफुल एंड ब्यूटीफुली पोर्ट्रेड बाय द टू ग्रेट एक्टर्स आल्सो।
No, since you talk about Lady Macbeth, when while watching, I'll come to that in Throne of Blood. But Tabu has done a fantastic. Tabu has, she's equal foil to Irfan sir. Fantastic performances.
Yeah, it's a very good performance. Again, very nuanced. So I'll go back and catch Pankaj on his thing about Shakespeare.
So you were thinking about that.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about it. I actually disagree with him because Shakespeare always gave his women a very powerful voice, whether we Macbeth or even for that matter, even in Hamlet, or even for that matter, Juliet. They're very, very powerful women. They know what they want. And it's not like, okay, she was a mistress, but she was a very shrewd mistress. Nobody told her, nobody put a gun on her head to be his mistress. She chose to be his mistress, or she chose to be Abaji's wife for whatever reason. She could have died and not been, but she chose to be what? She chose Maqbool to be her lover. That's her choice. If you remember the film, he is not very receptive towards her affections. He's not very receptive. She is pulling him, so she is very cunning. If you know, so I think that's a very strong, and that's where he got it from Lady Macbeth. Macbeth is actually based on history. So if we go back, Shakespeare used to write a lot of his plays from history. And there was a Scottish king, and he did what he did. And there's a chronology. And yeah, there were queens who actually manipulated. They wanted the power. What is Macbeth? Macbeth is about power. I want the power. That is what it is. It's power. It can be anything. You can set it up today in any way. It's a man who will do anything to get power, and the greediness of one, and how what a man does, or a woman, whatever it is, a human being can do to get that power. That's what Macbeth is. It's just about that. It can go into any kind of situation. It does not. That is the character, and Lady Macbeth is also that character. Whether be Tabu or whether be in Throne of Blood, or for that matter, I've got a very small. We will talk about that film too. Joji Binsi was also very interesting. So she was in the background, but she did play a part, and I think that's what it is. And I think it's not. It's great to for Shakespeare to give that to women. Why is women always this quintessential, virginal mothers? We are not. We are human beings. We also have. When we can be negative, we are manipulative. Why not show it? And we should, embrace it. And I think that's the greatest. That's the good thing about. I mean, the Brit. You have Shakespeare, and nobody better than Shakespeare to bring that to you. That all women or men, they have all kinds of shades. That's the thing. When you go back to the play, and I'll go back to what I think where Vishal Bharadwaj has done, and as a director, and kudos to the writers, is that when you see the play, in there also, she actually coaxes and tells the Macbeth that you are not man enough to do this, and Tabu does the same thing. She tells Mia, you're not man enough.
अब्बा जी की जगह तुम कभी नहीं ले सकते.
क्यों?
डरपोक हो तुम.
It is out of what? Love. It's out of her greed for him. It's out of her own power. She wants to be powerful. She wants to be with this man. She's powerless. But yet there is a lot of power she has. So I think it's a lot of interesting, and I think that's a filmmaker's, every filmmaker has their own touch, and that's where Vishal Bharadwaj brought it, is that he used her power in such a way that it works within the milieu of Indian society. Oh, she's manipulative, but she's actually, because she has this background. What if she was just manipulative? Why bring this, this sad sob story? She wanted to be with him. Why can't it be that? But it's good. He did it because our audience needs that. They need a justification. But I'm glad, because Shakespeare didn't give you justification. And she was just, Lady Macbeth was what she was. She was a very headstrong character who knew she wanted her husband to be the king, and she went out of the way. She said, even there is a quote when she says that to him, that I want to be a man. If I have I want to give away all my femininity to become the strong man to kill this king. You have to kill King Duncan. And I think that's what I think character of where Macbeth is not Macbeth without Lady Macbeth. So I think that's what. But in Maqbool can need it. I'm very happy that Tabu was a very beautiful character for Maqbool, but I still feel Maqbool can stand without that's what I, as a filmmaker, I took Maqbool more than I took Tabu's character. It's me. That's how I didn't feel, okay, she died, whatever, but I didn't want his fault. I don't know why. So that's the debate I have. I mean, for me, that's a great achievement for an director to tell the worst of a character kind of comes out of a hero in a way.
I was very hesitant when I was saying that Shakespeare. I was very hesitant, and you pointed the good point also, like कि हाँ आप एक औरत की तरह देख सकते हैं. उन्होंने औरत को ऐसा नहीं दिखाया who should be like always goody. That is very good point, and मैं चाहता था वो डिस्कशन इनिशिएट करना, शायद इसलिए वो चीज बोला. लेकिन दूसरा जो मुझे कैरेक्टर्स को लेके, चाहे वो औरत का कैरेक्टर हो या आदमी कोई भी कैरेक्टर हो, उसके बिहाइंड भले ही उसका बैक स्टोरी नहीं दिखाया जाए, लेकिन जो हम लोग शुरुआत में बात कर रहे थे कि इरफान साहब कहते थे कि मुझे कैरेक्टर का इमोशनल वर्ल्ड, सो हम लोगों को एक अलग लाइन से पढ़ाया जाता था कि यू हैव टू एम्पैथाइज विद ईच एंड एवरी कैरेक्टर, इवन इफ द कैरेक्टर इज टेररिस्ट, यू हैव टू एक्सेप्ट एंड रिस्पेक्ट ईच एंड एवरी कैरेक्टर. तो उसके पीछे का अगर लॉजिक, कैरेक्टर क्यों ऐसे कर रहा है, वो बिहेव कर रहा है बहुत, तो फिर उसका ग्रे एरिया में एक्सप्लोर करना डिफिकल्ट हो जाएगा, और वो पॉजिटिव और नेगेटिव की लाइन में हो जाएगा कि हाँ लेडी मैकबेथ तो चाहती थी ऐसा. लेकिन अगर हम हिटलर का भी पास देखते हैं, मुसोलिनी का भी किसी का भी देखते हैं, इवन डिक्टेटर्स का देखते हैं, तो उनके बचपन में कुछ ऐसा हुआ होता है या परवरिश में कि जहां पे ये चीज आती है कि वो किन सर्कमस्टेंसेस में मिस्ट्रेस बनी होगी. तो मुझे कैरेक्टर को लेके थोड़ा ये है कि कैरेक्टर का जस्टिफिकेशन चाहिए रहता है। हाँ, औरत वाला पॉइंट आपका बिल्कुल सही था कि शेक्सपियर ने उनको स्ट्रॉन्ग दिखाया, लेकिन मुझे कैरेक्टराइजेशन में ये चीज लगती है।
मुझे so I'll go back to the Lady Macbeth. Lady Macbeth was just a queen. She was always wanted her husband to be the king, and she saw an opportunity, and she made sure that her husband became a king. That's all. वो एक royal family से belong करते थे, and that is all. In royal, when you go into politics, why do you go into politics? You want power. So it doesn't matter what comes in front of you. You want to kill it or you want to get rid of it. So you can be on power. That's all she wanted. She wanted her husband. Her backstory. She's coming from royalty. She's in the royal thing. Her husband is worked so hard, and now the prophecy of the so another thing I'll touch on, there was no witch hunting or anything. The witches are like a prophecy. They mostly how we have in our these prophecies, we have these charts and people have their janam patris and all. So in a way that was another pagan way of because Shakespeare was doing plays, and it was a nice way because before they became Christians, they were all pagan like gods. So they use that witchcraft, and especially Scotland. If you have the history of Scotland, they believe a lot in the witches and in witchcraft and all that. So it was not like a bad thing. It was just that they were prophecies. And actually, if you see it, what Vishal did was very nice. He bought these two cops. And what does these cops do? If you see what I just said was, they use those charts, the same charts that's why I saw that very interestingly put, that Om Puri reads the charts, the charts, the Janam Patri kind of a chart. The opening shot, when he says, he looks at two charts, the chart of Mia, Maqbool, and then the Pandit's chart. And he says, hey, you are going to rule. And
6 महीने में अब्बा जी की गद्दी मियाँ की है.
Then he says, your son is going to rule.
तेरे बेटे की पत्री देखी, बहुत दम है साले में.
वैसे मियाँ जी का जवाब है तेरा बेटा.
So if he's looking at the charts, it's a similar thing. He just interpreted it in our language, and I think that's fantastic because the witches are similar to prophecies to what we are doing still. In that way, all the pundits who reads your charts are bloody witches. No, I'm just kidding. But hey, that is true.
That is true.
That's the thing. You are believing in all these hocus pocus. So who knows what's going to happen? And I think when you believe in these hocus pocus and you think you are going to be, when you believe in this hocus pocus, you'll do anything to get, convinced. And whether be, Abaji's mistress or the mistress or the woman you're sleeping with, she convinces you that, hey, kill the king, you do it. Because you think those people who have prophesized you're going to be the king. So I think that the idea is a man, his greed, everybody has something inside him and I think it's a very nice both the when this guy, when you bring in Irrfan and he says he's grown up in this the backstory is more for, I think, an Indian audience to give you a little bit soft blow. He blows you softly rather than give you a really hard. But I think he's the Abbaji's general. He's Abbaji's main man. Mia was actually, Maqbool is Abbaji's main man. He's his general. If the king falls, who's the next thing you go to? The general. And the general becomes the king or whatever. He kills everybody to become the king. So I think that's what even it was in Shakespeare, and it's even in Maqbool. So I think it's just the adaptation is very well, as I said again, is very well done, and I think is one of the finest adaptation of Macbeth in the milieu of Indian, in the Indian society, in an Indian culture, in an Indian Bollywood scenario. I think in the film industry, in that way, I think one of the finest works is Maqbool.
Yes, and just a couple of things quickly I would like to add to that. This adaptation also has a lot of it's a love story as well. Apart from whatever you all said, it's a gangster flick and it's a good adaptation of the original, but it tilts towards the love story also a little bit.
Of
बिकॉज
course,
वो पावर के लिए तो स्ट्रगल है, लेकिन एक वो दोनों कैरेक्टर में एक प्यार भी है, काफी प्यार है इनफैक्ट. तो वो चीज भी
हाँ,
ये
वो तो
हिंदी
हमारा
मे बी बिकॉज इट्स हिंदी सिनेमा, तो वो लव एंगल बहुत स्ट्रांग है. और वो गाने भी बहुत अच्छे हैं, विशाल भारद्वाज के कॉम्पोजिशंस, एक गाना रोने दो वगैरह, काफी अच्छा
तू
सॉन्ग
मेरे
है.
रूबरू है.
हाँ, और सिनेमाटोग्राफी भी बहुत अच्छी है फिल्म की. और एक और लाइटर नोट पे जो पंकज कह रहा था कि बिकॉज उसकी बॉडी अच्छी नहीं है, तो आई थिंक पंकज सर ने भी बहुत अच्छी बॉडी बनाई वो सीन के लिए, जब वो अपना शर्ट उतारते हैं सलमान खान की तरह, वो पॉइंट को और स्ट्रॉन्ग करने के लिए. आई
अच्छा,
थिंक
हाँ.
पंकज कपूर इज ऑल्सो अ मेथड एक्टर एंड ही
The way he dances also, like the scene you were mentioning,
yes,
Abba ji.
yes,
And like अभी तो इरफान
exception.
साहब के थे initial days of theater, I was like अभी भी पंकज कपूर का एक परफॉर्मेंस उठा के देखते थे, and I was blown by this परफॉर्मेंस, क्योंकि जो नाटक में तो उनका कैरेक्टर बहुत जल्दी मर जाता है, लेकिन इस फिल्म में जैसे दिखाया गया है, पंकज कपूर was like
true. I agree.
Yes. And my final comment is again coming back to Irfan Khan's silence and his depth, and the climax scene where he is just looking into space, and that was really brilliant. And of course, as Rajshri said, and about that it being a very good adaptation in our milieu. And as Pankaj pointed out, the props and all, everything was very finely done. Abbas Tire wala, as you mentioned. And
You summed it up pretty well.
Irfan साहब हमको बहुत जल्दी छोड़ के चले गए, यही बोल सकते हैं.